When God sets his eyes on you, beloved, when heaven whispers your name into the corridors of destiny, everything around you begins to shift. You may not understand it at first. The silence that grows louder. The people who drift away, the doors that once opened easily but now stand closed and cold before you. But know this: when God separates his chosen ones from the crowd, he is not punishing them, he is preparing them. He is not rejecting them, he is refining them. You see, there is something sacred about isolation when heaven ordains it. It is in that stillness, that divine distance from the noise of the world, that God begins to shape a person into someone who can carry his purpose without breaking beneath the weight of it. You might have felt it before, the sudden disconnection from people who once understood you. The strange feeling of being in a room full of laughter and yet sensing that your spirit is somewhere else entirely. You might have wondered why friendships began to fade, why your heart no longer fits inside certain spaces, why conversations that once filled you now drain your soul. It's because the chosen are called to climb mountains others are not meant to see. The air at the top is thin and not everyone can breathe where you're going. So God in his mercy begins to move people, plans and patterns away from your path, not to hurt you, but to help you rise without hindrance. There comes a moment in every chosen one's life when heaven demands their full attention. And that, my dear, is when separation begins. You may find yourself in a season where nothing makes sense. People will call it a dry spell, a lonely phase, a time of testing. But if you listen carefully, you'll hear it differently. You'll hear heaven calling you higher. Because every elevation begins with separation. God cannot take you to a new dimension while you are still clinging to the comfort of the old. And so, he strips away what cannot go with you. Every false identity, every shallow friendship, every dependency that would weigh down your wings. Don't curse the loneliness when it comes. It is not your enemy. It is the hand of God clearing your space. There are seasons when God isolates you because the crowd cannot hear what he wants to whisper in your ear. The noise of approval, the chatter of validation, the opinions of others, all these can drown the voice that matters most. So he hushes the room one person at a time until only you and he remain. And in that silence, something begins to stir, your eyes begin to open. Your spirit begins to remember who it was before the world told you who to be. You start to hear the rhythm of heaven again, the heartbeat of purpose pulsing within your chest. There is beauty in being alone with God. It's in those quiet hours when no one sees you, that he performs his deepest work. He molds you, stretches you, breaks you in places that were once proud and stubborn. He lets you taste failure so that you may savor humility. He allows you to walk through rejection so that when you finally stand in your calling, you won't crave applause. You'll crave obedience. You'll stop living for the approval of man, because you've already survived the silence of their absence. You'll stop needing to be seen, because you'll know that being known by God is more than enough. I have learned that the wilderness is not a punishment, it is a classroom. It's where God teaches his chosen how to trust him in the dark. It's where you learn that provision doesn't come from people, it comes from his hand. That validation doesn't come from numbers, it comes from his whisper. The wilderness strips away every false source of confidence until all that remains is raw faith. And that, beloved, is exactly what God needs to elevate you. Because when you finally step into your purpose, he wants the world to see not your pride, not your charm, not your network, but his power. It hurts to be separated. It feels like something is dying inside of you when people walk away. It feels unfair when you've given love, loyalty, and time, only to be left standing alone. But what if that loneliness is the soil where your next blessing is buried? What if God is pruning your life so that fruit can grow where there was once only shade? The tree never complains when the gardener cuts its branches, because it knows that growth requires shedding. So let the cutting come, let the leaving come, because what is leaving you is making room for what is becoming you. The chosen ones are never called to blend in, they are called to stand out. They are not designed to fit into crowds. They are designed to carry the light that guides the crowd. And that light cannot be kindled in chaos. It burns best in the quiet, away from the noise, away from the distractions, away from the stage. God separates his chosen because he knows the danger of early exposure. If he were to elevate you too soon, The same crowd that claps for you would crush you under the weight of their expectations. So he hides you. He conceals you like a seed in the dark soil, allowing you to grow roots before you bloom. And oh, how deep those roots must go. Because the higher your calling, the deeper your foundation must be. The storms of destiny will not spare you. The winds of envy, jealousy, betrayal, they will come. And if your roots are shallow, you will fall with the first gust. That is why God takes his time with the chosen. That's why he doesn't rush your elevation. He wants to make sure that when the crown is placed on your head, your character can hold it. He wants to ensure that when you speak, your words carry the weight of experience, not just emotion. Sometimes God separates you not because people are bad, but because they are not built to go where you are going. Some connections are seasonal, and when the season ends, trying to keep them alive only poisons your peace. You must learn to release without resentment, to bless without bitterness. When God removes someone from your life, he is not subtracting, he is multiplying your purpose through pruning. You cannot see it now, but later you will thank him for every closed door, for every unanswered call, for every friendship that faded quietly into memory. Because each of those moments was God saying, I have more for you, but you must travel light. Elevation demands solitude. You cannot carry your past into your promise. You cannot drag old habits, old insecurities, or old wounds into a new season. So God separates you not only from people, but also from the version of yourself that no longer serves where you are going. He allows life to press you, to squeeze out the remnants of fear, to purge the residue of pride. He lets you feel the weight of being unseen, because it is in that hidden place that your strength is born. You learn to rely on his voice instead of the world's applause. You learn to find peace not in who stands beside you, but in who lives within you. And when the time comes, when heaven decides you are ready, your elevation will not require announcement. You will simply rise. Not because you forced it, but because you were faithful in the waiting. The same people who questioned your silence will witness your shining. The same hearts that doubted your worth will watch you walk into divine favor with a grace they cannot explain. You won't have to prove yourself, God will do that for you. You won't have to chase opportunity, it will recognize your name because heaven already spoke it. But until that moment, stay faithful in the field. Tend to your quiet work. Pray when no one is listening. Build when no one is clapping. Because that is where the chosen are tested, where no eyes can see. If you can be trusted in private, God will honor you in public. If you can praise him in pain, he will position you in power. The world glorifies visibility, but heaven honors consistency. And when your season of elevation comes, you will not rise empty. You will rise ready. There is something sacred about being hidden. Think of Joseph, betrayed by his brothers, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, then imprisoned. Yet every place of separation was a step toward the palace. Think of David, anointed in the field while his brothers stood in the house, forgotten by family but chosen by God. Think of Esther, concealed in the palace until the right moment came to save a nation. Every chosen vessel endured separation before elevation. So if you feel isolated, remember you are in good company. God hides his best work until it is fully prepared. And while you are waiting, don't despise the small things. Don't resent the quiet days. The silence is not empty. It is pregnant with purpose. Every tear you cry in the dark waters your destiny. Every moment you feel unseen is shaping your strength. Every delay is protection disguised as patience. Because if you rise too soon, you'll crumble under the weight of what you ask for. But if you wait on God's timing, no force on earth can stop you. It takes courage to stay still when your spirit wants to run. It takes faith to trust God's no as much as his yes. But when you understand that separation is part of sanctification, you stop fighting it. You stop begging people to stay who were never meant to stay. You stop explaining your vision to those who are spiritually nearsighted. You stop apologizing for your growth, because you realize that God is not being cruel. He is being careful. He is protecting what he placed inside you. And yes, it will hurt. It will ache to watch people walk away. It will sting to see others move ahead while you remain still. But remember this, every delay is divine design, every pause is preparation. Every silence is God setting the stage for your unveiling. When he finally elevates you, there will be no doubt it was him. The glory will not be yours to boast of, it will be his to display. And that, beloved, is the purpose of separation. That when you rise in such a way that the world says, surely, this was the hand of God. You were never meant to be ordinary. You were not born to blend in. You were crafted in the quiet by the Creator Himself, and that kind of masterpiece cannot be rushed. So stop mourning what God has removed. Stop chasing what God has released. Stop trying to understand every ending. Some stories must close so new ones can open. If you must weep, then weep. But after the tears, stand tall. Look around at your solitude and call it sacred. Say to yourself, this silence is my sanctuary. This loneliness is my preparation. This isolation is my incubation for greatness. Because when God is ready to elevate you, no crowd can contain the magnitude of what He will do. The people who once ignored you will seek your wisdom. The places that once rejected you will open their doors. The same life that once felt like exile will become a platform of influence. You will walk with the calm of someone who knows they were chosen, not for comfort but for calling. You will speak with the authority of someone who has walked through fire and found faith still standing. So if you find yourself alone tonight, don't despair. Lift your eyes to the sky and remember, stars only shine in darkness. Your isolation is not your ending. It is the womb of your next beginning. God is not punishing you, He is positioning you. He is removing the noise so you can hear His direction. He is silencing the crowd so you can learn the rhythm of His voice. And when He calls your name again, when He says, now, rise, you will not hesitate. Because you will know you are ready. You will rise with wisdom that comes only from walking alone. You will rise with power that can only be birthed through pain. You will rise with humility that only silence can teach. And when you rise, you will carry light that heals others still wandering in the dark. Your separation will become someone else's salvation. Your wilderness will become someone else's roadmap. Your story will remind the world that every chosen one must walk alone before they can walk in purpose. So breathe, beloved. Trust the distance. Trust the silence. Trust the separation. Because the God who pulled you apart is the same God who will lift you higher than you've ever dreamed. And when He does, you'll understand it was never rejection. It was redirection. It was never isolation. It was preparation. And every lonely night, every tear, every unanswered prayer was simply heaven writing your elevation into being. You are not forgotten. You are being formed. You are not abandoned. You are being anointed. The crowd cannot go where you are going, because you were never meant to be one of many. You were chosen to be one in purpose, one in power, one in divine distinction. So hold on. Keep walking. Keep believing. Because what God is preparing for you will not require competition. It will only require completion. And when the time comes, your story will echo through generations as proof that separation was never the end. It was always the beginning of your rise. And as you walk through the stillness of this sacred season, know that God's silence is not His absence. He is closer to you now than ever before, whispering truth in the language of quiet moments. The world has taught you to measure God's love by movement, by open doors, by answered prayers, by visible blessings. But the chosen soon learn that the truest measure of His love is presence. And His presence often comes clothed in stillness. It is in the silence between the storms that He lays His hand on your heart and begins to rewrite its rhythm, teaching it to beat not to the tempo of the world but to the cadence of eternity. You will feel the weight of waiting, the ache of unanswered prayers pressing against your chest, and you will wonder if He has forgotten. But remember, He cannot forget what He Himself designed. You were not created by accident, you were crafted by intention. Every delay, every detour, every door that did not open was not a denial. It was divine choreography. God has been aligning the unseen long before you ever prayed the first word. He is not late, He is deliberate. He is not ignoring you, He is insulating you. For the chosen must be prepared not only for blessing but for battle. And the higher you are called, the greater the warfare you will face. Do not mistake divine distance for abandonment. The eagle does not soar in flocks. It flies alone, carried higher by the very winds that would break lesser wings. And so must you. The same wind that stripped away your comfort is the wind that will lift you. The same loss that tore you apart is the very loss that will clear your path. You may not see it yet, but every separation has purpose hidden beneath its pain. Sometimes God must empty your life so He can fill it correctly. Sometimes he must dismantle your circle to protect your destiny. There are people who loved your presence but could not handle your promise. There are those who celebrated your potential but would have suffocated your purpose. So God, in His infinite wisdom, removes them before you ever reach the mountaintop, because He knows the air is thin up there, and not every heart can survive the altitude. There is a loneliness to being chosen that few can understand. It is not the loneliness of abandonment but the loneliness of preparation. Like the silence before dawn, it carries the promise of something rising, something becoming. You are being hidden for a reason, and the hidden season is the holiest one of all. That is where the refining happens. That is where the impurities burn away. That is where the noise of your old identity fades, and the voice of your new one begins to sing. And though it hurts, though it breaks you open in ways words cannot describe, it is the only way to be made whole. For God cannot fill what is not first emptied. He cannot use what is not first surrendered. So if you feel like everything is falling apart, take heart, it is falling into place. The breaking you feel is not destruction, it is construction. The silence you feel is not neglect, it is incubation. God is growing you in the dark, and growth always requires a form of solitude. The seed cannot sprout in the open air. It must be buried unseen, covered in darkness, watered by what feels like drowning. But then in time it pushes through the soil, stronger because of the resistance. You too are that seed. Every buried season is building your roots. Every tear is watering your destiny. Every lonely night is expanding your spirit for the abundance that is coming. When the chosen are set apart, they are not being punished, they are being purified. Purification is not gentle work. It is the fire that burns away the excess, the hammer that shapes the iron, the wind that tests the tree. God is not trying to break you down. He is trying to break you open, to expose the treasure hidden inside your pain. You think you are losing, but you are being prepared for victory. You think you are forgotten, but you are being favored in secret. The oil that flows from your life will not come cheap. It is pressed out through isolation, through waiting, through surrender. The greater the anointing, the deeper the crushing. You have been wondering why your path feels heavier than others, why your battles seem longer, why the lessons come harder. It is because your calling demands it. The higher the assignment, the deeper the training. God cannot elevate you into influence without first teaching you endurance. He cannot trust you with visibility until He can trust you with invisibility. You have to learn to carry the crown long before anyone ever sees it. That's why He isolates you. To strengthen your spirit, to thicken your skin, to quiet your ego. He wants to ensure that when you finally stand before the world, you will not crumble under the weight of applause, nor chase validation like air. You will stand steady, anchored in Him, because you've already survived the silence. Oh, the silence, it is both cruel and kind. It stretches you until you no longer recognize yourself. It strips you of certainty until faith is your only language. It forces you to confront every corner of your being that still doubts your worth. But in that sacred confrontation you become free. The opinions of people lose their power. The comparisons fade. The anxiety that once bound you begins to melt away. You begin to see yourself not as the world has labeled you, but as God Himself calls you, chosen, beloved, anointed, unstoppable. That revelation alone is worth every lonely night. And when at last God begins to elevate you, it will not look like you imagined. It will not come wrapped in comfort or surrounded by applause. It will arrive quietly, like dawn spilling light over a sleeping world. You will find yourself walking into rooms you never applied to enter, speaking words you never rehearsed, carrying grace you never earned. And you will know, it was the solitude that prepared you for this. The same stillness that once felt suffocating will now feel sacred, because it built the foundation for your strength. But even in elevation, the chosen remain humble. They remember the wilderness. They remember the silence. They remember what it cost to stand. Because God does not elevate for the sake of status. He elevates for the sake of service. Your rising is not for your glory. It is for His light to shine through you. You are not being lifted to be admired. You are being lifted to illuminate. And you cannot illuminate what you have not endured. That is why He had to separate you, so that your heart would be pure, your motives refined, your faith unwavering. The world teaches you to chase platforms, but God teaches you to build altars. He separates his chosen not to make them superior, but to make them surrendered. So when he lifts them, they lift others. When he blesses them, they become a blessing. When they speak, their words carry healing because they were spoken from wounds that have been washed and made whole. There is no arrogance in their walk, no desperation in their presence. There is only a quiet knowing, a divine stillness, a peace that comes from having walked alone with God and survived. And yet, even as you rise, there will be moments when the call of the crowd tempts you again. The noise will call your name, the world will try to pull you back into its rhythm. But remember, you are not who you were. The one who once sought validation now carries revelation. The one who once needed to belong now knows they were born to lead. You will not find peace in the places God has already called you out of. You must guard your separation even in elevation, because that distance is what keeps your spirit clear. Do not fear being misunderstood. The chosen are often misread by those still bound to the crowd. Your obedience will offend the comfortable. Your focus will confuse the distracted. Your peace will provoke the restless. But keep walking, keep trusting, because what you are carrying is holy. The same ones who mock your process today will marvel at your purpose tomorrow. And when they ask how you did it, you will smile softly and say, "It was God. He separated me to save me." So, my dear, if you are standing in the quiet now, if the voices have faded and the path has narrowed, rejoice. You are closer to destiny than you've ever been. The silence is not empty. It is full of God's attention. The distance is not abandonment, it is divine focus. You are not being hidden from the world, you are being hidden for it. And one day soon, when the appointed hour comes, the same God who called you away will call you forth. And when he does, you will walk with such grace, such wisdom, such fire, that the world will know heaven has touched earth through you. Do not rush your unveiling. The longer the preparation, the greater the revelation. God is still shaping your spirit, polishing your voice, aligning your steps. Every heartbreak, every silence, every disappointment is being woven into a masterpiece. What you see as isolation, heaven sees as incubation. You are becoming something eternal. The wilderness will not last forever, but its lessons will. And when the final dawn breaks and the silence lifts, when God calls your name before heaven and earth, you will understand every delay, every tear, every lonely prayer. You will look back at the empty rooms, the quiet nights, the unanswered calls, and whisper, "Thank you." Because you will see that it all led you here, to this strength, this peace, this purpose. You will realize that separation was the sacred language of God's love, spoken not to wound you but to awaken you. And from that day on, you will never see solitude the same. You will cherish it, guard it, honor it, because it was there that God met you face to face. It was there that he taught you to stand when no one clapped, to believe when nothing moved, to love when no one stayed. It was there that he whispered your true name, the one only heaven knows, and told you that you were never alone. So walk on, chosen one. Walk boldly through the quiet. Walk faithfully through the waiting. Walk joyfully through the separation. Because the same God who drew you out will lift you up. The same silence that broke you will birth you. And the same loneliness that once made you question everything will soon become the proof that you were always set apart for something divine. And when that moment comes, when you rise not by striving but by grace, remember this truth deep within your soul: God did not separate you to make you lonely. He separated you to make you ready. Ready to rise, ready to lead, ready to shine, ready to love with a heart unshaken, to walk with faith unbroken, to carry light undimmed. You will know as surely as breath fills your lungs, that every ounce of pain was worth it. Because elevation is never random. It is reserved for those who dared to stay when others left, who trusted when others doubted, who listened when others shouted. And you, beloved, are one of them. You are the chosen. You were separated for glory. And the time of your rising is near. And when that rising finally comes, it will not come with thunder, nor with great announcement, but with the quiet majesty of dawn. You will awaken one morning and feel a new stillness inside you. Not the stillness of waiting, but of knowing. You will look at the same sky that once mirrored your uncertainty and realize that it has always been preparing you for this very moment. The light that touches your face will feel different, warmer, wiser, as though heaven itself is smiling at the completion of what it began in secret. You will not need to prove yourself to anyone anymore. The need to explain your silence, to justify your isolation, will fall away like old skin. You will understand that everything had to happen exactly as it did, that every person who left, every tear you cried, every prayer that seemed unanswered was part of a divine rhythm that carried you here. Because God does not elevate the unprepared. He does not release the unrefined. He does not give flight to wings that are still wet from fear. So He took His time with you. He molded you in midnight conversations that no one else could hear. He sculpted your faith in the furnace of loneliness until it gleamed with quiet strength. He pressed you again and again until the oil of your purpose began to flow. That's why it took so long. That's why it hurt so much. The oil of calling is costly, and heaven will not pour it into a vessel that still leaks. Now, as you stand ready to walk into what has always been yours, you will see how the separation protected you. You will see how God blocked what you once begged for. You will see how His no's were the greatest gifts you never knew you needed. There will be a peace that no applause can replace, a humility that no spotlight can touch. You will not rise with arrogance, you will rise with gratitude. You will carry within you the quiet dignity of someone who knows what it costs to be chosen, someone who has wrestled with heaven and walked away not limping but enlightened. The world will ask where you've been, and you will simply say, "I was with God." They will not understand it. How could they? They did not see the nights you cried and still believed. They did not feel the emptiness that became your altar. They did not witness how you learned to dance in the dark, how you learned to worship without witness, how you learned to love the silence that once terrified you. But you will not need their understanding. You will know that your story is sacred, too sacred to explain, too divine to defend. You will have made peace with the mystery of your making. And still, even in elevation, your heart will remain soft. Because separation does not harden the chosen, it refines them. You will not carry bitterness from those who left, you will carry blessings for them. You will not hold resentment toward those who doubted, you will hold compassion. For now you understand that not everyone can see through the eyes of faith. You will pray for them not from pain but from purpose, knowing that your story is proof of what happens when a soul refuses to give up in the dark. There will come a day when you look at the faces of those who once turned away and feel no anger, no sting, only gratitude, because their absence made space for God's presence. Their rejection redirected you to revelation. Their departure drew you closer to the one who never leaves. That's the divine irony of separation. It removes what you thought you needed so you can discover what you truly cannot live without. And you will see, too, that the elevation was never about platforms or recognition. It was always about transformation. God did not separate you just to show you off. He separated you to show Himself through you. The true measure of your rising will not be in how high you go, but in how deeply you love, how patiently you wait, how gently you treat those who are still finding their way through their own wilderness. You will become a mirror for others, a reminder that the God who hid you is also the God who will find them. Sometimes you will meet people who are still in the season you once survived. They will tremble with the same uncertainty, cry the same questions you once cried. Why did they leave me? Why did this happen? Why am I alone? And you will look at them with soft eyes and say, because God loves you too much to leave you unprepared. You will tell them that the silence is not punishment, it is protection. You will remind them that the same pain that feels unbearable today will one day become their testimony. You will speak not from theory but from experience, not from pride but from scars that have healed into wisdom. And in that moment, you will realize the full circle of God's plan. The separation that once felt like an ending will reveal itself as a beginning. Not just for you, but for those your story will touch. Because that's the thing about the chosen. Their lives are never just about themselves. Every trial they endure becomes a lamp for someone else's darkness. Every wilderness they walk through becomes a map for another wandering soul. Every tear they shed becomes the water that helps someone else grow. You will see that the very isolation that nearly broke you became the womb of your compassion. You will love people differently now. You will listen without judgment, encourage without condition, serve without needing recognition. You will walk with a humility that cannot be faked, a peace that cannot be shaken, a strength that cannot be taken. And the reason is simple. You met God in your solitude, and once you've met him there, you can never return to who you were before. The crowd will still exist, still move, still chatter with opinions and noise, but you will no longer crave its approval. You will smile gently at the chaos and walk in peace because you've learned the language of heaven, the quiet knowing that everything unfolds in divine time. You will no longer be hurried by the pace of others or haunted by the pressure to be seen. You will understand that visibility without purpose is vanity, but purpose in silence is power. You will choose stillness over spotlight, peace over praise, calling over comfort. The more you rise, the more you will cherish the lessons of separation. You will look back at the wilderness and see it as the most sacred chapter of your life. Because that was where you met yourself. The version God intended, the one untouched by noise, unshaken by opinion. It was there you learned to hear his voice not in thunder, but in whisper. It was there you realized that destiny is not a destination but a devotion. That elevation is not a moment but a movement of the heart. And when storms come again, and they will, you will not fear them. For you will know their language now. You will recognize the wind that once terrified you as the same wind that once lifted you. You will not run from solitude because solitude has become your sanctuary. You will not panic in silence because silence has become your teacher. You will not despair in distance because distance has become your protection. You will not confuse being hidden with being forgotten because you now understand that hidden things grow best. And there in that peace you will walk differently. Not with arrogance but with quiet authority. Not with entitlement but with empathy. Not with the need to prove but with the grace to simply be. Because chosen ones who have walked through separation no longer need to shout. They carry a presence that speaks for them. They don't need to chase purpose. It flows through them. Their very being becomes testimony. So let the world move in noise. Let others rush ahead, scramble for recognition, fight for fleeting validation. You, stay still in your knowing, stay faithful in your preparation. Because God's timing is never late and his elevation never misses its moment. When he decides it is your hour, he will open doors you didn't knock on, align paths you didn't plan, and introduce favor you didn't earn. The world will call it luck, but you will know it was separation that made room for it. And as your journey continues, you will find that separation never truly ends. Every new level will require a new letting go. Every new blessing will call for new boundaries. Every deeper calling will ask you to release another layer of comfort. But this time you will not resist it. You will welcome it, because you now understand that separation is not subtraction. It is sacred alignment. It is God's way of saying, I am not finished with you yet. So walk with your head high even in the quiet. Speak softly but carry the thunder of truth within your heart. Move with grace even when no one sees it. Because the same God who separated you for this moment will continue to guide you for every moment to come. And when the end of this life finds you, when you finally lay down your head in peace, heaven will not ask how loud your name became. It will ask how faithfully you followed when no one was watching. And you, with that same stillness that